This month, Destiny 2 is going to get a new event or a series of quests, very similar to Riven's Wishes that we had about a year ago now. And these quests award tokens that can be spent on a specific set of rewards. Now, we've known that this thing will be dropping during Act 3 for a little while, and Bungie specified that it will be in the final few weeks of episode Revenant. So today, while we've previously discussed some of the rewards, in this video we'll go into a bit more detail about the specific quest objectives, which will hopefully give you guys a bit of a heads up as to which quests you plan to complete, rewards that you might want to pick up, and a bit of orientation for it in general. So I hope this one helps out, guys. If it does, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button down below. And now let's get into it. This quest will be hosted by the Drifter and Eris, and through the various quest steps, we'll be able to acquire something called Bento tokens. And those can be spent on specific rewards, which includes the Hinterland, Biosphere, and Ossuary sets of armor, which will be able to be purchased as Artifice armor pieces. Each of those will require 2 Bento tokens. Keep in mind that armor is getting a rework later on this year, so that may affect the appeal of the armor pieces. Otherwise, Ascendant alloys, shards, exotic ciphers, and spoils of Conquest can be purchased with these tokens. I should add here that for some of the materials, like Ascendant alloys or Ascendant shards, we'll get 2 of them for each Bento token that we spend. And if you're curious about spoils of Conquest, I think we'll get a total of 25 spoils for 1 Bento token. Some folks have discussed the possibility of picking up older raid exotics like Legend of Acreus or Taraba from the Monument to Lost Light if you don't happen to have them. You would, however, need to have at least 10 Bento tokens, and it looks like the maximum we'll be able to earn from the event is 8. So it would get you most of the way to those rewards, but not quite all of the way. It could, however, still be useful for some players, so I figured that was worth mentioning. Plus, it provides an option to purchase Cloud Strike, which will cost 3 Bento tokens, or a handful of Adept weapons that can't be acquired other ways, like the Cataphract GL3, Igneous Hammer, Hothead, and Horror's Least, although we don't have guarantees as to whether they have fixed or random rolls yet. But finally, a bunch of mementos from playlists and events, essentially all of the mementos in the game, with the exception of ones that drop from raids, and those can be purchased for 1 token as well. On top of that, one of the key rewards for this is the Chatterwhite shader coming back from the Vault of Glass in Destiny 1. So in terms of objectives and how we can actually pick up the rewards, to get the Chatterwhite shader, we need to complete 5 Bento boxes, which basically refers to us completing 5 of the quests that will be available during this event. So that's kind of a master quest, I guess. Once we've done all 5, we can return to the Drifter in the tower and then investigate the vending machine, which is nearby between Ada and the Drifter in the annex, and that will award the Chatterwhite shader. But for the quest objectives specifically, we don't know the order of availability of these quests, but tackling them by name, there is a Dubious Bento, and that requires us to collect Dubious Celery from defeated targets in Gambit and Century Eggs from defeated combatants on the moon. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. We'll need 10 of each of those items. Not sure if there'll be guaranteed drops on each kill or random drops, probably the latter. But very simple quest steps right there. Basically, play Gambit until you've got 10 of the celery items, and kill stuff on the moon until you have Century Eggs. Some of these quest steps could potentially be completed simultaneously if we're allowed to collect more than 1 quest at a time, but that isn't clear yet. Either way, the Dubious Bento quest will award 1 Bento token as far as we can tell. Then we have the quest Dredgeons of Yore, and this requires us to get Final Blows in Crucible or Gambit, and Final Blows in Gambit with hand cannons will earn additional progress. So we need to score a total of 50 points for this. Obviously, hand cannon kills in Gambit are going to get the most progress, although it'll probably be faster to get hand cannon kills on Guardians in the Crucible. And once again, that will award 1 Bento token. The next quest is Martial Mementos, and this requires us to get kills with Malfeasance, Witherhoard, Touch of Malice, Whisper of the Worm, Xenophage, or Arbalest. And it lists a total of 200 points, so at the most that will be 200 Final Blows, I guess. Maybe one that we can farm at checkpoints like Shura-Chi or the entrance to Grasp of Avarice, in which case things like Witherhoard would probably get this done reasonably quickly. Otherwise, I'd say Malfeasance or Xenophage are going to be the weapons that get us the most kills in the least amount of time, and again that will drop 1 Bento token. There's also a quest called Nightmare Kills, and this requires us to defeat nightmare bosses and challenging combatants. Obviously, there are nightmare hunts on the moon, but another activity that might get it done pretty quick would be the Altars of Sorrow in Sorrow's Harbour on the moon. Again, that will give us a Bento token, There's another quest that might be able to be completed in a similar way, which is Nightmare Lunch. That requires us to complete activities on the moon, and there is bonus progress for nightmare hunts here. Again, for this one, I'd do a run of Altars of Sorrow initially just to see what the progress is like, and if that doesn't seem quick enough, obviously head into Nightmare Hunts, which might get it done a bit faster, and if we are able to pick up more than one of these quests at the same time, Nightmare Lunch and Nightmare Kills obviously will go together pretty nicely. The next quest though is called Snakebite, and this requires us to secure final blows with Gambit weapons. This appears that it will work on any PvE enemies, so there are a total of 200 kills required. More than likely any of the classic Gambit weapons that we still have access to in the minute will count. So that one's going to be fairly easy, but the final objective is a quest called the Stuff of Legends, and this requires us to finish final encounters in any raid or dungeon, and raids provide additional progress. It only lists a requirement of 2 encounters to be completed, so theoretically that means either 2 final encounters of a dungeon, or potentially just 1 final encounter of a raid. And that'll be a useful quest if you can do it, because it will drop 2 Bento tokens. So those are all of the objectives, and again it might be useful if they're not all specifically outlined at the start of the quest pickup on the vendor. At least you can use this video to get a better idea of what will be required. Obviously, if you want to grab as many of the rewards from this as possible, then you'll want to complete all of the quests, but I'm sure there'll be players that have a lot of those weapons and rewards already, but still want the Chatterwhite shader, so at least from this you can try and pick out the 5 quests that you would opt for in order to get the shader unlocked. Really, that sums up how this is going to work. And so I hope this video has been helpful, going into a bit more specific detail about the objectives and rewards. If you have found it useful, a rating below really does help us on the channel. Also be sure to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with future updates, these quests, and the patch that we're getting for week 2 of Act 3, which again is when I assume that this will go live. So keep it locked and loaded, let us know your thoughts down below, and any rewards that you want to go after, but otherwise, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.